So, yeah, we can start. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So, بإذن ta'ala, we'll be continuing discussing the book بيان فضل علم السلف على علم الخلف by Hafid Ibn Rajab rahimahullah ta'ala. So we'll be picking up from where we had stopped regarding what we've been discussing regarding this particular thesis. Aywa.
Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillahi. The inner sciences. From those sciences that have been innovated is discussion and analysis of the inner sciences, i.e. sciences dealing with matters such as gnosis, the actions of the heart, and related issues based upon pure opinion, spiritual experience, or spiritual realization. This contains a great danger and was rejected by the greatest of Imams such as Ahmed and others.
So the author here rahimahullah discussed مما أحدث من العلوم الكلام في العلوم الباطنية من المعارف والآمال القلوب. So discussing concerning of those things that one should be mindful of, and how people have somewhat, or some of those who have written certain books on certain topics, that they are somewhat discuss things that should not be discussed, or mention things that should not be mentioned. So you find that books of that nature, or books of that type, that there are many. So set an example regarding books that may discuss of things that they may, of things regarding amal al-qulub, things that soften the heart and the likes, but those things to be discussed, to be mindful of, and even regarding concerning al-ulum al-batiniyah, thing which is things that are mainly covered by those concerning at-tasawwuf. So you have your books in tafsir, so you have different science have been affected by these type of books, where the author discusses things that are, as I said, thing of isharat, batiniyah, thing which is things of the inner matters of those books that they discuss. There's a book that have been printed, or recently been printed by that is called Lataif al-Tafsir, or something of that meaning. Lataif al-Tafsir, where can some are Lataif Isharat, Lataif Isharat, but it's a book that discusses a book in tafsir, but trying to discuss concerning the inner meanings of things. So more so books of tasawwuf. So it's a book of tasawwuf, even though the same author have more than one books in tafsir. His earlier book is different from his latter books in tafsir. So you have concerning ilm of tafsir of the Quran have been affected regarding those matters, try to discuss the inner meaning of things. Then also you find other books that ulama have warned and cautioned against, that a book that is very famous to many. It is called Ihya Ulumuddin. So Ihya Ulumuddin by Al-Ghazali, on this topic regarding, discuss many things, but in this book, the many of the ulama have caution regarding for the general Muslim is not a book that is advised to be read, based upon that you have a lot of things that are Sufi type of content. Also, you find that the hadith that are used are said to be hadith are weak and mawdu'. So based upon this, that the ulama, they have caution against this book. That is a very famous book, Ihya Ulumuddin. I think the book has been translated into English, but many caution against that book. Also of contemporaries, that books that have been cautioned against, of the book concerning Tabliq al-Nisab. So a book, Tabliq al-Nisab, that a book also that it can mention things of stories and people experience, that some of those things are a bit out of line. Some of those things, information, are somewhat far-fetched. So the ulama have looking at the book, have caution against some of these books. So you find that based upon the content that these books have been warned against. So it shows regarding in seeking of ilm that the person know as to what are the appropriate books to study. So what are the appropriate books to study in each science, and depending on the person's level. So as the person become more advanced, then certain books that maybe in the early stage was not maybe suitable, then because the person now is more prepared, have some foundation, then the person can read of those books. What the general thing is that the person have to be cautious regarding, especially in the early stage of studying of knowledge, that the person is careful regarding the books that they study from. So of those things to be mindful of. Aywa.
Sulaiman ad-Darani used to say
Abu Sulaiman.
Abu Sulaiman?
Abu Sulaiman in my book.
Here, just have Sulaiman. Abu Sulaiman ad-Darani used to say, sometimes a point of inspiration occurs to me as it does to the nation of ascetics, but I do not accept it except by the testimony of two just witnesses, the book and the Sunnah.
Yes, I mentioned regarding concerning al-Mizan al-Akbar, so concerning that the main scale to measure things, whether concerning of people action, people statement, or whatever may be put forward, that to measure those things, it goes back to the Quran, the Sunnah. So regarding concerning of measuring the scale, to know whether something is proper or not, whether something is correct or incorrect, whether something is in line with the Sharia or outside of the Sharia, the scale to measure all of this is the Quran, the Sunnah. So the main scale to measure all of this is the Quran and the Sunnah. And you also mentioned that for everything that is presented or put forward, that the person need to put those to the test, and the thing to test it with, or to test those things along with, is the Quran, the Sunnah, the Quran and the Sunnah. Aywa.
Junayd said, this knowledge of ours is governed by the book and the Sunnah. Whoever has not read the Quran or written the Hadith is not to be followed in this knowledge of ours. This knowledge has been greatly abused, and some of those who laid claim to it fell into various forms of heresy and hypocrisy, claiming that the awliya were better than the prophets, or that they had no need of the prophets, belittling the laws conveyed by the messengers, having the belief in incarnation and unification, the belief of the unity of being, and other such matters which form the foundations of disbelief, sin and transgression, such as the claim that many of the prohibited matters are lawful to them.
So I find regarding concern that this is a practice that became something that either become prevalent amongst those who are said to be a Shia Salaf or Rafida, where they elevated, they see that they are righteous individuals above that of the Anbiya. And also you find that this practice also is prevalent among those who are Ahlul Tasawwuf. So Ahlul Tasawwuf, the people who are said to practice of Tasawwuf, Sufism, that also that they have elevated individuals to places where they call Al-Awliya, where they start to supplicate to them, or they treat them in a certain way, to the extent so you find different things that people would ordinarily see as, in the Sharia, as something which is mahdhur, something which is haram, they will see it as something which is halal. So you find that, so you find these practices that are mentioned here are more prevalent regarding the people of deviated amongst them, Al-Rafida, Al-Shia, and also Tasawwuf, Tasawwuf, the people of Sufism. Aywa.
Through this approach, they have introduced many affairs into this religion that have nothing to do with it. They thought some of these affairs would engender softness of the heart, such as singing and dancing.
So it shows regarding concern of this matter regarding trying to encourage people regarding certain matters of Islam and for people to pay attention to certain things that they can somewhat in the start to try to make things, as I said, easy to facilitate for the people things. Because though kids, could they keep it down? So is this matter regarding a taysir with tasheel that kind of somewhat where people kind of somewhat they start to go over the top. So and this shows regarding that an inhiraf where people start to deviate regarding matters regarding ad-dawah. So matters regarding ad-dawah, majal ad-dawah, that has its own rules and guidelines, and that one not to try to entice people to Islam by using things that are not permissible in Islam. So that you mentioned regarding al-ghina, that singing and dancing and these type of things, believe that these things will somewhat soften the hearts of people. So as Asad mentioned, the scale is Quran wa Sunnah. The scale is the Quran and the Sunnah, and the author rahimahullah discussing ways where people have somewhat deviated. Aywa.
They thought other matters would serve to refine the soul, such as passionately desiring forbidding pictures and looking at them. Yet others thought would break the soul or lead to humility, such as desire for clothes and other such matters whose legitimacy has not been proven by the divine law, Sharia. Indeed, some of these matters actually distract away from the remembrance of Allah, and prayers such as singing and looking at that which is prohibited to see is this day resembled those who took their religion as mere play and amusement.
It not only leads to those things, it leads to those things with a person in reality. Somewhat it pulls the person more away from Islam rather than taking the person back to Islam correctly. Aywa.
Beneficial knowledge with regards to inner sciences. Beneficial knowledge in this arena is the
So after clarifying what is said to be knowledge that one should guard oneself against, now he's going to explain what is beneficial knowledge. What is said to be beneficial knowledge. So this is what is defined as ilm al-nafi'. Aywa.
Beneficial knowledge in this arena is to strictly follow the text of the book and the sunnah, to understand their meanings, and in order to do so, confine oneself to what has been reported from the companions, the successors, and their successors in matters to do with the Quran, hadith, the lawful and the prohibited, asceticism, softening of the heart, gnosis, and other such things. It is upon one to exert himself in distinguishing the authentic narration from the weak, then after this to exert himself in correctly understanding the authentic narrations. In this there is sufficiency for any who possess intelligence and adequate material for those who seek beneficial knowledge.
So say what have been mentioned just by the author rahimullah regarding concerning that, given us a summary regarding what is said to be ilm al-nafi'. We would say if we put this in one word, we'll say salafiyya. So if we put all what you have just mentioned regarding that ad-dawat salafiyya, regarding concerning its approach to Quran, the Sunnah, so all Muslim and all different groups and organization and sects that who claim Islam, that they all claim that they follow Quran and Sunnah. But the issue, the problem now arises in how do you go about understanding the Quran and the Sunnah. So the author rahimullah explained regarding the method, the correct method in understanding the Quran and the Sunnah is as follows. So regarding concerning so to understand the meaning of the Quran and the Sunnah, that one he mentioned تقيد في ذلك بالمأثور أن الصحابة والتابعين وتابعيهم في المعاني القرآن والحديث. Then can someone explain concerning the method, the person need to put some guidelines in place regarding how to understand the Quran and the Sunnah. And up those guidelines and the method to have in place that a person understand the Quran and the Sunnah by way of the aqwal of the Sahaba, al-ma'thur and Sahaba, so knowing the aqwal of the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, the ulama who came after the Tabi'een and benefited and studied with them, those who came after them, atba' Tabi'een, which is the first 2 generations of Islam. When he said the Prophet Islam, he praised those 3 generations. خير الناس قرني ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم. So regarding concerning understanding the text of the Quran, the Sunnah, the method to be followed is, as he mentioned, understanding by knowing what the understanding of the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, atba' Tabi'een, regarding how they understand the Quran, the Hadith, and also regarding as to looking at matters regarding halal and haram. Also the same thing was the understanding of the Salaf and the Imam that came after them that are well known. So and also matters that also include regarding matters regarding az-zuhd wal raqa'iq wal ma'arif. So all these matters regarding that the person go back to the Quran and the Sunnah according to understanding as outlined the Sahaba wa Tabi'een atba' at-Tabi'een. Then I mentioned also with this al-ijtihad ala tamyiz sahihi min saqimi. Also for the person in a hadith that a person have to make a distinction regarding those hadith that are said to be authentic and those that are not. And that goes back to the ulama of hadith. So you might find that if we were, as we had stated in the last lesson, that if we want to go back or sources that are there that will assist us in understanding Islam according to the understanding of the Salaf al-Salih, that these books are available. So there's books that have been written and that we have them today that will aid us in understanding Islam or see things to see things as how the Sahaba saw things and the Tabi'een and atba' Tabi'een. So regarding Aqidah, that books that give us the aqwal of the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, atba' Tabi'een regarding matters relating to Aqidah. You have books like Al-Sharia lil-Ajuri. So the book Al-Sharia by Al-Ajuri. Also Shar'u Usul I'tiqad al-Sunnah wal-Jama'ah by Al-Ka'i. Al-Ibana al-Kubra by Ibn Battah. So and also Kitab Al-Sunnah by Ibn Abi Asim and others. So these books are said to be books in Aqidah that are said to be musnada. So every aqwal that are mentioned, they'll give the isnad regarding, and the aqwal that are mentioned are that of the Sahaba, the Tabi'in, Atba' Tabi'in. So these are books in Aqidah that give you the insight as to the views of the Salaf with isnad. So this book becomes also the foundation book in Aqidah. Then also you'll find that the same.
Can you just repeat it slowly, please?
We have Ash-Sharia lil-Ajuri. Ash-Sharia lil-Ajuri. Second, Sharh Usul al-Ittiqad li-Aljamaykee. Third, Al-Ibana Al-Kubra li-Ibn Battah Al-Uqbari. So he has two books, Al-Kubra wa Sugra. Al-Kubra, not complete. Portion of it is printed, but Al-Kubra, like a summary of it, then that is printed. That is printed, and a portion of it has been translated. Then the fourth book is Kitab al-Sunnah li-Ibn Abi Asim. Kitab al-Sunnah li-Ibn Abi al-Asim. And you have other books. You have other books, but we just mentioned those as example. So in matters regarding al-fiqh, regarding concerning books that reflect or gather the aqwal of the Salaf, then as we had mentioned before of those books, Al-Muhalla, Ibn Hazm. So Ibn Hazm, Al-Zahiri, his book Al-Muhalla, also give us insight regarding aqwal of the Salaf. With isnad. Also another book that is called Al-Awsat, the Ibn Munzir. So the book of Al-Awsat min al-Sunan wal-Ijma' wal-Ikhtilaf. So that's the name of the book, Al-Awsat min al-Sunan wal-Ijma' wal-Ikhtilaf by Ibn al-Munzir. And also the books of Ibn al-Dubar, Al-Istizkar and Tamheed. So those are books that give us concern the aqwal of the Salaf regarding matters regarding in relation to the aqwal of the Salaf in matters regarding al-fiqh. And as we had mentioned before, the book of Musannif ibn Abi Shayba and also Musannif li Abdul Razzaq. So that's concerning another books books in Tafsir At-Tabari, in Tafsir of the renowned, also the book that of Tafsir Al-Quran, Tafsir Al-Quran Azim by Ibn Abi Hatim and also Ibn Kathir, of those books of Tafsir that will give us the aqwal of the Salaf. Aywa. So most of the books I mentioned are books of those books that have been mentioned, bear in mind that books on a more advanced level. So those are books on a more advanced level. Aywa.
Whoever suffices with this makes his intention sincere, seeking the face of Allah, mighty and magnificent, and seeks his aid, he will aid him, guide him, grant him the divine accord, make him firm, grant him understanding, and bestow upon him inspiration. At this juncture, this knowledge will sprout its special fruit, the fear of Allah, just as He, mighty and sufficient, says, إِنَّمَا لِيَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. Translation of which is only the learned amongst his servants who truly fear Allah. Ibn Mas'ud and others said, sufficient knowledge is it that one fears Allah, and sufficient ignorance it is to be deceived of Allah.
So the main fruits of ilm, what a person is trying to achieve, is meant in thamatul ilm, that the person that he gains khashyatillah, that the God-fearingness. So the person regarding the ilm, that the purpose and the intent behind this is that a person is seeking from this, to gain from this, the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Regard, and as he mentioned also in the same of Ibn Mas'ud, Rata'ala, Anhu, and others of the Salaf. Aywa.
Some of the Salaf said, knowledge is not narrating a great deal, but knowledge is the fear of Allah. Others said, whoever fears Allah is the scholar, and whoever disobeys him is ignoramus. There are many quotes from
so that becomes like the scale. So in the end result, regarding the person, by way of the knowledge that he has possessed, or not that he have gathered, if the person see from that person khashyatillah, then it's a sign that that person benefit from his knowledge. And then the person see opposite. The person may have knowledge, but you see things of isyan, things of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then know that the person in reality is jahil, as mentioned. Man khashyatillah fahuwa alim, wa man asahu fahuwa jahil. So knowledge, if it is gained and the person then act upon it correctly, then and gain khashya, then that's the person who's truly an alim. But the person might say, I studied, I gathered knowledge, I have these books that I've read, but the person's action is not a proof of this, does not coincide with the thing that he have learned. Then the person in reality is still jahil. That person in reality is still jahil, ignorant. Aywa.
There are many quotes from them carrying this meaning. The reason for this is that beneficial knowledge effectuates two matters. One, knowledge of Allah and what befits Him of beautiful names, lofty attributes, and awe-inspiring actions. This necessarily leads to venerating Him, glorifying Him, having fear of Him, being in awe of Him, loving Him, having hope in Him, putting one's reliance in Him, being content with His decree, and bearing His trials with patience.
So regarding concerning the mention regarding concerning thamar ilm, regarding concerning that the thamarat of ilm, it goes into two things. So regarding concern, as mentioned before, regarding concern that that knowledge should manifest in that person by way of his khashya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by his fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that manifests in two things. Regarding matters relating to at-tawheed. So regarding concern that matter that relates to the person at-tawheed, with a person aqidah, by way of the person tawheed, it becomes sound. Regarding knowing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His name, His attributes, in according to what have been mentioned in the Quran, the Sunnah. So that's concerned. So the first area that it should manifest is regarding the person, the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is matters relating to at-tawheed. Aywa.
Knowledge, second, knowledge of what He loves and is pleased with, and that which He detests and angers Him, of beliefs, actions, the outer and inner, and statements. This leads one to rush towards performing that which Allah loves and is pleased with, and avoiding all that He detests and angers Him. When knowledge sprouts these fruits, it is beneficial knowledge. When knowledge is beneficial and takes root in the heart fears Allah, submits to Him, and humbles itself in awe, glorification, fear, love, and veneration. When this happens, the soul...
Yes, the mention regarding concerning the next matter, the second one regarding that the person, the second matter regarding the manifestation of this knowledge, then also impact regarding the person, that's it now, how the person now apply this knowledge, which is regarding, as he mentioned here, that a person, he also those things that comply with those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves and is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so he fulfill of those things and carry out those things. And also the opposite, that those things that are displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then a person, he avoid those things. Those things, so the person look to see, try to know what are those things pleasing to Allah, and those things also that are displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he mentioned that this fall into matter regarding al-i'tiqadat, in relation to the person's belief, what is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also what is displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regarding matters of belief and creed. Second, in matter regarding amal al-zahira wal-batina, regarding concern the person also is actions, outward actions and inner actions. So, and also he mentioned wal-aqwal, and also a person's statement, so the thing that the person utters or speaks, then also that the person stay in line with those things that are pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and those things that are displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he avoid them. So this knowledge, it manifests regarding the person's action or the person's his deeds and his actions, outward actions and inward actions, his speech and also his conduct and behavior. So they mentioned that regarding concerning فَمَا كَانَ عِلْمًا النَّافِعُ, that then he mentioned regarding concerning what is ilm al-nafi', regarding what is ilm al-nafi'. Aywa.
When this happens, the soul is content with the humblest of lawful worldly provisions, and this in turn leads it to turn away from the world and all temporal effects. As such, there remain no property, status, or surplus effect that is looked at and want only by the servant, which would be a cause for the decrease of his portion with Allah of the bliss of the hereafter. This was stated by Ibn Omar and others from amongst the Salaf, and has been reported from the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him.
Hey, so short regarding concerning ilm al-nafi', which is, as I mentioned, that ilm al-sharia, that if that it has said it have sown its seeds or been sown properly inside the heart of the person, then of those things the person that you have iqbal al-akhirah, the person more gravitate towards the akhirah, So doing things that will gain him the akhirah, and also the person that azud and fi dunya, and also the person that he cannot abstain from things of the dunya. So those excessive things of the dunya, then the person try to avoid those things. So those excessive things of the dunya, that a person try to avoid those things. So you'll find that of the biography of many of the ulama, of a common thing that you find of the ulama of the sunnah and the ulama, that they are known for azud, that they are known for zud, where that they become of qina', they come contented with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving to them, so they can somewhat, they just function what they need in the dunya. They function by what they need in the dunya, not per se trying to get this excessive in matters relating to the dunya. Aywa.
When all of this happens, a special relationship between Allah, mighty and magnificent, and the servant is engendered. If he asks, he grants, and if he supplicates, he answers, as is mentioned in the Hadith Qudsi. My servant continues to draw closer to me by performing the optional deeds until I love him. When I love him, I am his hearing by which he hears, his sight by which he sees, his hand with which he strikes, and his leg with which he walks. Were he to ask of me, I would grant him, and were he to take refuge in me, I would grant him refuge. And in another narration, were he to supplicate to me, I would respond. In his peace and blessings be upon him advice that was directed to Ibn Abbas, there occurs, be mindful of Allah, he will be mindful of you. Be mindful of Allah, and you will find him in front of you. Know Allah in times of ease, and he will know you in times of hardship.
That Ibn Rajab rahimahullah, that have a risala just to discuss this hadith. So you have a risala just to explain this particular hadith. Aywa.
The goal of the servant is that there be in his heart a specific gnosis between him and his Lord, whereby he finds him close all the time, and takes comfort with him in times of solitude. He finds pleasure in remembering him, supplicating to him, privately discoursing with him, and serving him. None would experience this except he who obeys him in open and in secret. It was asked by Wahib ibn al-Ward, can one who disobeys Allah experience the sweetness of obedience? He replied, no, and neither can one who merely wishes to disobey him. When this is actualized in the servant, he can then be said to have gnosis of his Lord, and a special relationship develops between the two, such that when he asks, he grants. When he supplicates, he answers. Sha'wana said to Fudail when he asked
Fudail ibn
Iyad, when he asked her to supplicate for him, does there exist between you and your Lord a relationship such that if you supplicate to him, he answers you? Upon which he fell unconscious. The servant continually faces hardship and difficulty in this world, in the barzakh, and at the place of the final standing. When there exists this special gnosis between the servant and his Lord, Allah will suffice him during all of this. This is what is indicated in his peace and blessings be upon him advice to Ibn Abbas. Know Allah in times of ease, and he will know you in times of hardship.
Yes, I mentioned regarding your son, that the servant always in situation where things are somewhat difficult, and those things will continue. Those things, it exists in the dunya regarding the abd, and also he mentioned ofil barzakh. So barzakh is after death, and the person while in the stage or in the grave, until Aljamaykee for the person is the resurrection. So regarding concerning that the Muslim or the abd that always been a tense situation, whether in this dunya or difficult situation in this dunya, also in the barzakh and also mawqif, as no one knows what will be his final outcome. Aywa.
It was asked of Ma'ruf, when is it that has roused in you the desire of seclusion? The questioner mentioned death, the grave, the place of the final standing, paradise and hell as possible causes, to which he replied, all of this is in his hand. When there exists a gnosis between you and him, he suffices you during all of this. So beneficial knowledge is that which engenders a gnosis between the servant and his Lord, and leads to it such that he comes to know his Lord, singles him out alone in belief and worship, takes comfort in him, develops a sense of shyness of him, and worships him as if he sees him.
It's the fact of the ulama, and those are the way of the Salaf al-Salih, that place emphasis regarding matters regarding at-Tawheed. which is the abd building that relation between himself and his Lord. And the first thing is knowing of his Lord. So the emphasis is placed regarding the person knowing his Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala regarding matters relating to at-tawheed, al-asma wa sifat, at-tawheed al-ibadah, and also and at-tawheed al-rububiyyah. So the abd need to know his Lord, to build that relationship between his Lord, and also to offer his Lord the rights that he's deserving. So these are the ulama, they put emphasis on those matters as that the foundation to start everything. That's the foundation to start everything. Aywa. So if those things are in place, then hopefully other things will be in place regarding at-tawheed.
This is why a group of the companions said, the first knowledge to be raised from the people would by humility. The first knowledge to be raised by people would...
إن أول علم يرفع عن الناس الخشوع.
Ibn Mas'ud said, there are people who recite the Quran, yet it does not descend beyond their throats. Were it to reach the heart and take root therein, it is then that it would benefit. Al-Hassan said, knowledge is of
It's not about reading the Quran. You might first might have the voice or read the Quran, but it doesn't per se impact on the person's heart. And because of a lack of al-khushu'. It's a lack of khushu'. Either the person either from both sides or from one side. Either from both sides or from one side.
Al-Hassan said, knowledge is of two types. Knowledge that is superficial utterance upon the tongue, that is Allah's proof against the children of Adam, and knowledge that takes root in the heart, and that is beneficial knowledge. The Salaf used to say, the scholars are of three categories: the scholar who knows Allah and His commands, the scholar who knows Allah but not His commands, and the scholar who knows His commands but does not know Allah. The best and
so
the most...
the three levels. What's the first one?
The scholar who knows Allah and His commands.
So concerning that he knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regarding al-tawheed and His commands regarding matters regarding al-halal and haram, regarding al-sharia, the rules and laws. And the second, al-alim billah.
Scholar who knows Allah but not His commands.
So not per se, so the person, but he doesn't implement the commands.
And the scholar who knows his command but does not know Allah.
So those are the three states, or what you might find a person of that is attributed to ilm may fall into one of those three. A person who's attributed to ilm might fall into one of those three. Then he says,
the best and most complete of them is the first. He is the one who truly fears Allah and knows His rulings.
The Bible says, no, if you know that, meaning he act upon those rulings. So the person, the alim, that he acts upon those ahkam, acts upon those rulings. So a person might know the ruling but doesn't act upon them, then he falls in a different category. So this category regarding the person knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at-tawheed, and also he knows the ahkam, the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also he implements them.
The fundamental matter here is that the servant uses knowledge to engender a gnosis of his Lord. When this comes to fruition, he will find Him close. When this happens, he will bring Him close and answer his supplication. It is mentioned in the Judeo-Christian narration, Son of Adam, seek me and you will find me. When you find me, you will find everything. However, if you don't find me, you will have lost everything. I am more beloved to you than anything else. Dhul Nun used to repeat.
As Ibn Ibrahim mentioned in al-Athar al-Israeli that he mentioned regarding concerning those matters regarding if an athar or a statement from Israel, then those things to be mentioned. So the person knows it's not something, so it's not from our original text sources, it's from the sources that are external. So those things need to be made known. Those things need to be made known. Dhul
Nun used to repeat these verses by night. Seek for yourself the likes of what I have found. I have found a place of rest wherein He never falters in His love. If I move away, He draws me close, and if I move closer, He draws nigh. The foundation of knowledge. Imam Ahmed, may Allah have mercy upon him, used to say about Ma'ruf, he possesses the foundation of knowledge, the fear of Allah. Therefore, the foundation of knowledge is that knowledge which leads to fearing Him, loving Him, drawing close to Him, taking comfort with Him, and ardently desiring Him. Then this is followed by knowledge of the rulings of Allah, all that He loves and is pleased with from the servant of statements, actions, spiritual condition, and belief. Whoever realizes these two types of knowledge has found beneficial knowledge. He has attained beneficial knowledge, a fearful heart, a content soul, and a supplication that is responded to.
So with these things that is mentioned regarding these guidelines, regarding how to distinguish regarding knowledge that is beneficial, is how even if we still use it to measure those people who are said to be طلاب العلم or the mashayikh. So these things are still used regarding that we use it to measure people, even those people that are said to be the طلبة العلم and the mashayikh, to see do they fall in line with these criteria. Aywa.
Whoever does not attain this knowledge will fall into the four matters that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, sought refuge from, and his knowledge will actually become a source of misery for him and a proof against him. He will not benefit by it because it did not make his heart fearful of his Lord. It did not satisfy the desires of the soul for this world, rather it only strengthened it. His supplication went unheard because he did not obey the commands of his Lord and avoid all that he detests and angers him. This provided that his knowledge is that knowledge from which benefit can be hoped, i.e., that knowledge derived from the book and the sunnah. Whatever knowledge may be derived from other than these two sources is not beneficial, and there is no hope of deriving benefit through it. Indeed, its harm is greater than its benefit.
Aywa.
The signs of beneficial and non-beneficial knowledge. The sign of knowledge that does not benefit is pride, arrogance, and conceit. Such a person seeks high position and ranking in this world and competes for it. He debates with the scholars with the aim of defeating them and argues with the foolish with the aim of directing their attention towards him.
So if you see a person who like this description, they know someone to avoid. So if you the one was to see a person with these descriptions that are being mentioned, then is a person to avoid. I would say not with today, you'll find we call this thing online, social media. Unfortunately, you find a lot of this take place with people who are said to be طلبة العلم. If you were to compare them with the kibar al-mashayikh, you don't find these things regarding concerning getting into debates, arguments, and so you not find them with the kibar al-mashayikh, but with the so-called YouTubers and duat, you find these things are Allah mustan, clear. Aywa.
He debates with the scholars with the aim of defeating them and argues with the foolish with the aim of directing their attention towards him. It is reported from the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, that whoever seeks knowledge for this purpose, for him is the fire. It is possible that some...
hadith is daif, that hadith, fihi da'f. Aywa.
It is possible that some who possess this type of knowledge claim to have gnosis of Allah and that they only desire Him and nothing else. Their purpose behind this claim is naught but the desire for precedence in the hearts of the people, such as kings and others, that people think well of them and that they enjoy a large dedicated following. The sign of this is that they will openly make the claim of wilaya, just as was the habit of the people of the book, and the latter, the practice of the qaramita, and the batiniya, and those like them.
Those are concerned to the extreme of the Shia. So from the qaramita wal batiniya, of the extreme of Shia. Ghulatu Shia. Some of the thing that that even the extent where of them kind of somewhat to bring attention to themselves or to their ideas, that even at times that they will lie and make up things. I would say that in today's time you find that a person, so again to still be in the spotlight, as they say of these that all they do is just tell stories. So they start off regarding telling their story, have like an incident occur in their life, and they use it as a way to kind of somewhat to bring some attention to themselves. Yes, they might but as they start telling stories, they find the story that they seem a bit, it needs to be reviewed. So they start with telling their life story. Then when they finish, they start to tell about their mother's story. They start to tell about their father's story, the brothers on the hood, or the brothers on the block, and it's just all stories. Now, that's not dawah. That's just telling stories. You understand? So in the name of Islam, that's not, you understand, with people experience, as the Shaykh, those are not ways to, you understand, that's not dawah. You understand? And a person who does this, you understand, is usually kind of somewhat, you understand, you're just telling stories. You're just telling stories, and that's not dawah.
But how do you advise someone like that if you see that from the lectures people make tawbah?
A person said, yes, people sometimes make tawbah from listening to those things, but it doesn't mean that what you're doing is correct. You understand? So people might understand that's the ibtila, that's of the test. You understand where the shaitan, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as a test for the person to see if you're sincere. A person might say, no, I benefit from it. But he said, and the person will benefit to be a person who said, the amatul Muslim. But you said, no, okay, to measure thing, you said, is measure thing with the Quran and the Sunnah. So whether majority of the people or this amount of people somewhat felt something, it will occur. But in essence, if you were to look at the method that you're using regarding a dawah, then does it measure up to the Quran and the Sunnah? You understand? So everything is still go back to the Quran and the Sunnah. This method becomes, yes, it has some results. As I said before, if a person was to go outside in any area, in England, in most places, like in London, and just stand and just give leaflets, people accept Islam. Don't say anything. Just give leaflets. And people accept Islam. People come to the masajid without you going out there. They come to you. Naam. So hidayah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Naam. And that's sometimes a person believes that, because what I said, you accept Islam, maybe the hidayah is from me. I'm the person. But hidayah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we are just said everyone just a conveyor sometime in your experience. You might understand in maybe your conduct. A person might see your behavior and your conduct as a Muslim, and they were somewhat they were amazed by it. They were, and that become the push for them. Naam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide people through many ways. Naam. So, but to believe that because what I have said, I'm that source, then that's problematic. You understand? And people use it as somewhat as said, yes, people, I gave my story, people accepted Islam, so kind of somewhat to keep themselves, again, in the picture of things. You understand? They don't want to take advice. They want to ignore the advice that you're not per se qualified. So they kind of somewhat use these external things to be their evidence to say, I'm doing something good, I should continue. But yeah, Allah musta'an. Aywa.
This is the exact opposite of the state of the Salaf, who used to think little of themselves, both inwardly and outwardly. Omar said, whoever says I am a scholar is an ignoramus. Whoever says I am a believer is a disbeliever. And whoever says I am in paradise is in hellfire. A further sign of this is that a person will not accept the truth or submit to it. He will act arrogantly towards those who speak the truth, especially if they are seen to be of a lesser stature than him in the eyes of the people. This person will persist upon his falsehood simply out of fear that the hearts of the people may become averse to him by his accepting the truth and therefore changing his stance.
Something the Salaf, rahimahullah, regarding concerning قبول الحق, يستفيد, the Salaf used to benefit concerning man فوقهم, the one who's above you. So the person who have ilm above you, the Shaykh al-Kibar, then you benefit from them. وَمَنْ مِثْلُكَ, and also يستفيد, you benefit from those people who are similar to you, on your level. And also man dunik, and also those ones who are below you. So the person comes that, for the person that your intention is وصول إلى الحق. Your intent, your goal is وصول إلى الحق. It's to try to achieve the truth. So when you gain that truth from someone who's senior to you, one who's similar to you, or one who's less than you, it's the haqq. So you accept it. So that's so you find the Salaf that they have this attitude regarding, as I said, their objective is the ghayat talabat al-haqq, is seeking the truth. And that's the person that so they are open to advice, whether from a person who's above them, or one who's like them, similar to them, or one who's below them. But they're open to take advice. Not so that every advice, but if what you're saying is correct, then khalas. As for abin takabbur, then I will mention those cases where that in most cases a person said when it comes to a person of already the fame, then become difficult, and is not properly qualified, become difficult to take advice. When a person already have the numbers with them, or they already have the position with them, even though they're not qualified, it becomes difficult to remove them.
It's kind of a follow-up on the previous question. Can the person do all those activities?
Can a person
do all the activities like how do you advise, like what you're saying, how do you advise an individual who says people made tawbah from it? can the person do all that and not be rewarded because it doesn't conform to how the Salaf gave da'wah and how they... Can the person do all of that and actually gain no reward from it because it's not the way that the Sahaba and the pious predecessors went about doing their thing?
For the act to be acceptable in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it must comply with two conditions. So for anything to be acceptable with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it must comply with those conditions. First condition, al-ikhlas. That a person must have ikhlas, sincerity. Now that what he's doing is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not that he's seeking any form of anything from the creation. Now, and second, al-mutabi'. And the second condition, the person must ensure that what he's doing as an act, it complies with the Sharia. So I said, no, yes, giving da'wah is an act of ibadah. Giving da'wah is an act of ibadah. Now, so it has rules and guidelines. Now, Kam said, the Sufi can say the same. Everyone in any sect can say anything regarding people accept Shia. So, people accept Tasawwuf. But that doesn't mean you understand. So the person giving their da'wah from, according to those things, you'll have people said will accept. But it doesn't mean that what you're doing is correct. If it is properly measured. So everything I've said is using the right and the proper scale to measure thing, which is the Sharia. So I said for an act to be acceptable, to be done, then and to have value in the Sharia, it must comply with the rules of the Sharia. If it doesn't, then yes, you may be doing things, but in the long run, it doesn't per se have that true impact. You understand? It doesn't have that true impact. Aywa.
Perhaps such people may even outwardly censure themselves and show that they think little of themselves in front of an audience, so that people believe that they are humble and thereby praise them. This is from the more subtle form of showing off, riya, as pointed by the successors and those scholars who came after them. These people will openly accept praise and encourage it in a way that negates truthfulness and sincerity.
So the person can somewhat, you said, and the person may be giving da'wah and you try to advise them and say, no, they come with these excuses. Sometimes that they said is because of a riya. You understand? They want to. You understand? They want that praise, so they can somewhat mention of their good. This person, you understand? The Salaf, they used to somewhat avoid mentioning their good that they did. Now, if a person always trying to mention these things, then go back to the book and the Sunnah regarding looking at the person's action in general. Is the method correct? The information correct? Aywa.
These people openly accept praise and encourage it in a way that negates truthfulness and sincerity. The truthful person will always fear falling prey to hypocrisy and meeting an evil end. The truthful person is always trying to avoid praise and always trying to avoid willing acceptance of it if it comes to him. This is why a sign of the people of knowledge is that they do not think themselves to be of any great stature or station. They detest in their very hearts praise and commendation, and they do not act arrogantly towards anyone. Al-Hasan said, the legal jurist is one who is abstemious of this world and desirous of the hereafter. He has perspicuous insight into his religion and is continuous in the worship of his Lord. In another narration, one who does not envy those above him or mock those beneath him, and does not take wages for knowledge that Allah has taught him.
So he mentioned regarding concern of those things that the Salaf had mentioned regarding of those sifat of the alim. Then he discussed regarding concern of those matters that and of those things that when he mentioned الذي لا يحسد من فوقه ولا يسخر ممن دونه ولا يأخذ على علم علمه الله أجر. The matter regarding concerning that taking of wages from ilm, regarding concerning that become a phenomenon in our time. Now, so you find that the ulama of hadith have discussed this matter regarding that. They will criticize a narrator because he took wages from teaching or from narrating hadith. So for them, ulama of hadith, they will criticize a person for this. Now, so unless the person is in a case of a need. Now, then that's different. But the general thing is that a general criticism regarding taking of wages regarding ilm. We'll find that so you'll find that today become a phenomenon or something become a common practice. Now that a person will tell you to come and give a lecture in your masjid, then this is my charge. You understand? Speaking to some brothers, they said you have to pay them like, and some ridiculous amount that is being mentioned. I could understand if ever, the person being compensated for his travel. You have to travel from point A to point B, that being, you understand? So the masjid give of their own goodwill, then it's not a problem. But for the person to stipulate, then X amount, then that's a problem. That's not the way of the Salaf. That's problematic. Naam, and that's an aib in a talib al-ilm. That he has a table or a fee for me to give a lecture, then this is this is what you have to give. You understand? Then that's a problem. That's a problem. And Allahu Alam, my position concerning that we may have concerning teach a person the basic things of the deen and to charge them, for me, that's not, I don't align to that position or to that practice. So the things concerning the basic thing of the deen, it should be something open for every Muslim because of the asl of the deen. So learning basic salah, to learn to pray, learning, for example, Salat Usul and these type of book, then should be teaching those things should be majjanan. Because these are the basic things of the deen. If you not said where every Muslim should have access to it, not some over others. That's my opinion. So regarding concerning the basic things regarding the deen, I'm said no, that if there's any of the students or majority of the students who have studied Islam, did you pay? Especially those ones who finish in universities. Did you pay? أخذنا العلم مجانا فأديت لله مجانا صح? We got it free of charge. The ones who went overseas and to somebody's institute, university, you receive your education free of charge, including everything. So to give it back, then majanan should be free. Now, so the basic thing should be where everyone should have access. As for higher level, I could understand higher level charging, because that's a different level. The person now putting a different effort. But as for the basic level, it should be something open for all the Muslim, without anyone having precedent where you have to pay for this. That's my opinion. And hopefully, a practice that we live by.
But in regards to, was this liked by the Salaf, even the people of our high level, just say a bigger scholar, and he said, look, I want £3,000 a wages to come and talk in Brixton Masjid.
Yeah, was any masjid?
Any masjid, sorry guys, they're going to start going for our necks, I know. But with the scholars in the past, would they like, would they...
So the general thing was the general thing concerning that taking wages regarding ilm, you understand, was shunned.
Okay.
Now, we said that now with today's time, now you have per se that institute that are established, we have to pay to learn that knowledge. So you find it in most masajid, in most part to my knowledge, that the knowledge that is taught in the masjid will be in most part the basic knowledge. So it is free in most part, sir. But you might find that regarding concern a person that wants to achieve now a higher level, we find that most masajid, most of that the person might that you might have to look to other means outside the masjid.
It must be private lessons.
Hey, so either says the person who wanted either private, because sometimes you want as for yourself. Now, that was at the higher level, then maybe you could be more concerned that requires more effort. Now understand, by way of teaching, for example, the person teaching. But as for giving a lecture, now a lecture in general, then that shouldn't be, you understand, come with this exuberant cost. Just to give a lecture. But as for teaching, for example, a book. For example, Mughni. Now, I said, for me to teach Mughni, then you have to charge me. I'm going to charge you. But for the person, teach me the book and I'll give you something, then that's the person goodwill to that sheikh. Maybe because of his time that he has allotted to him. So that's the person goodwill. But for the person said, I stipulate that there's a charge, then I said, no, look, it is to be weighed up as to what is being taught. And that level of what's being taught. Fine? Clear? So again, basic things should be for all the Muslim. So anything, Salat Usul. And that level of books in Aqidah should be Majjanan. Nam, as beginners books. Arabic language, he said if you teach Arabic as a language, then I see it as language. With the Arabic English, then that's language. You understand? So you're just learning a language of the language Arabic. Nam, so that is different thing. But as for the other science, Aqidah, Fiqh, and those things, the basic thing should be something available to all the Muslims. That's how I see it. And said that's how the message have been conveyed, how we got it from Omar Sheikh. Nam, higher level, then maybe that's another discussion. So I said ideally for those places that are institutes in teaching Islam, Nam, that they more concentrate on the higher levels. As for the beginners levels, then that should be left to the masajid. And the higher levels, then that be taught, consider that's a different structure. That's a different structure, those things on the next level. Consider is an avenue doing similar things as the masajid. Then you're taking on, and said, a lot of so, and something has to be mindful of this thing of, you understand, people opening these centers. What's the purpose of them? Dawah center, this center, what's the purpose? What's the purpose? If the Dawah centers do what? Teach people? Teach people what? So I said, is there a masjid? So the masjid falling short, then we could understand if the masjid, you understand, if you're not offering something, the masjid not offering, then what's your purpose? If you're not offering something other than what the masjid is offering, then what's your purpose? So that's the thing regarding these things. I said, yes, it may look good, but I said, no, what's the purpose? What we're trying to achieve.
But even in terms of when you say about trying to do higher levels outside of, for example, institutes other than a masjid, but shouldn't the masjid do every level? Because if you take the time of the Prophet and the Sahaba, they learned everything from the masjid. From the beginning all the way to the highest level, it all happened in the masjid.
I said, in most of the masajid, I said, yes, I said, that's like most masajid can deal with the basic level. I said, in Muslim country, you find that, yes, and the masjid, it will have, or different masajid may cater for different levels. So you have some of the mashaykh, they deal, it's most of the durus that you will find online or the masajid, they said, no, the beginners, intermediate level. Now, the more higher level, you understand, then it's you find those lessons will be done sometimes even in a more private setting. For example, Qira'at Kitab, sometimes may be done publicly, but it's not the common thing. You understand? Consider that's our next level. So you don't want a person who's a beginner just sitting into those levels that can somewhat, you understand, it's a bit over them. But it does occur in Muslim country. The higher level less, the beginner level, intermediary, even advanced, to more common. The higher level, not as much. It's more in, maybe in a sheikh house, he might have his selected students that may go and sit in those lessons, type of thing. So it does occur. In the West, and said basically that most of us, you understand, and students on the higher level, where are they? You understand? Where are those students on that higher level? Where are they? I said, and also when said one book can be taught on different levels. So I will make one example. Kitab al-Tawheed. You understand? You have explanation that is in 4 or 5 volumes. And you have explanation in 1 volume, half a volume. You understand? So it's the same thing, for example, we have said that like Arba'in al-Nawawi. That the most, if you go to, like in the West, the more common explanation are the basic level. You understand? Most not speak about the hadith being authentic or not. Just extract the general benefit and that's it. But you can go beyond that. You understand? So I said, no, so is, yes, concerning the level of higher level, yes, the masajid, and we should have facilities for higher levels to prepare people that somewhat to, you understand, be prepared for taking on the higher levels. But it's the students on that level and also the teachers who are on that level. Most of the tulab, they concentrate on the lower level, the beginner levels. And they just repeat from lower level to lower level. Maybe that's the thing that's their system. But they have to somewhat, but you need to have those or lessons that are geared for a more higher advanced level. It comes that sometimes I find that some of the tullab are they're more comfortable in the beginner's level. Yeah, they're more comfortable in the beginner's level. And maybe also they see that the audience for the higher levels are not as much. Aywa. So we have one more less. So one of how much? Okay, tafaddal.
The meaning of this last statement has also been reported to us from Ibn Omar. Each time the people of this beneficial knowledge increase in knowledge, they increase in humility before Allah, fear of Him, and submission to Him. Some of the Salaf said it is desirable that the scholar sprinkles dust on his head out of humility before his Lord. Each time he increases in knowledge, the cognizance of his Lord, he increases in fear and love of Him, as well as humility and submission. From the signs of beneficial knowledge is that it will teach one to flee from the worldly effects, the greatest of which is the desire for leadership, fame, and praise.
And so those are three destructive things concerning the person of ilm. Riyasa, wanting concerning position. Shahwa by way of woman and money. Those things are destructive, and also al-madh, and also praise. So for the person who's come into the field of ilm, of those things that you have to be disciplined regarding riyasa, position and rank, as something a person that you might find a person alim, one day he was speak the truth, then he gets a position and then things change for him. Because when you sit with people who are the leaders, and sometimes that they may do things that you may disagree, not everyone can confront them. And at times, if you were to confront them, then as they say, you go missing. So a person has to know how to manage those situations when you're dealing with leaders. Not everyone likes to be confronted. So you have to know how to deal with those situations. So sometimes you have to bend to them. So the person has to bear this in mind, having leadership. Then also a shahwa, regarding concern the person put in situation. You understand you have access to people that you have to just be mindful, especially concerning of the opposite gender. As you know that Allah mustaan of some of the stories, and then you have al-madh, of praise. Too much of praise can get to a person, as they say, get to one's head, and that can be the person's destruction.
So how does the Amatul Nas advise a person who's now been given position, but they possess this?
Possess what?
They possess that. They want position. They want.
Make dua for them. That's another one. She said after you can advise, and after advice, you make dua for them. You understand? Can say no. These are the things that becomes the trial for that person. You understand? I said some people they desire it, and some people don't desire it, and some people don't desire, but it comes to them. But is the person that knows said how to manage those things, and that goes back to self-discipline. It goes back to, as I mentioned, the prerequisite the person of the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Aywa.
It will teach one to avoid these and to expend effort in staying away from them. If any of this does occur without his choice or desire, he is in a state of extreme fear of his end, because it could just be a divine plan and a means of gradually leading him to perdition. Istiraj. It was because of this that Imam Ahmed used to be in a state of fear when he became famous. From the signs of beneficial...
So should Ahmed rahimahullah, those ulama that initially didn't want a lot of attention being placed upon themselves, but then it came, qadrullah ma sha. Then is now how to deal with it. So some people may not want it and can avoid it. So you have mashaykh that was mentioned. You have mashaykh that if you were to mention their names, they're only known by tullabul ilm, and sometimes only people in their science. But they're mashaykh of the highest level. But they are not known, because they can somewhat try to keep that lifestyle. For example, they used to mention, Sheikh Abdul Karim al-Khudair. That, years ago, we have cassettes, remember cassettes, tape cassette. Then during that time, everything was being recorded. In his lessons, were not allowed to record. Because at that time, you have Sheikh bin Baz, Ibn Uthaymeen, and others who we see as his seniors. So for him, there was no need he didn't see a need to record his lesson. But he had students and was teaching, but there was no recording because he thought there was others who were more qualified, and they're being recorded. Khalas. That's enough. Nam. So, but that time he may be known, but not as well known as later on. So you have, for example, Sheikh Hamad Ansari. Hamad Ansari. Hey, most would know him. But in Medina, he was of the scene and said, amongst the Mashaykh of Hadith, he is known to be of the Mashaykh of Hadith. So you might have Mashaykh that are known, but they are known by just a few. Because of, they have chosen that path of trying somewhat to be more private regarding certain things, and some people become famous. And said, did you know that Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah at one point with the Imam in the Haram? Hey, but when he went there, you understand? So he was appointed, but then after a while, didn't like what said, wants to go back to his place where doing that's what he was normally doing. So he from Unayza, then went to the Haram, spent like a few weeks, then after a while went back. When he started, only had a few students. Then after a while, had a full masjid. That came later on. So you find that of the ulama, that yes, kind of something that they got is publicity came to them, not that they want where it came. But you find that they didn't change much regarding how they function. They didn't change much in the way that they function. Aywa. And they do also things to bring attention to themselves. So that's the next thing. That a person who bring attention to themselves. So you find that in today's time, you find that that of bringing attention, the thing to be mindful concerning the talib, that sometimes is it regarding as bringing attention to oneself, where he always on, we call this thing, posting thing of himself. Always posting thing of himself. And so, do you need to? So always posting things of himself. Then that becomes, is that bringing attention to yourself. Also of the thing that bring attention to oneself, that fall in that, the person that is in the field of dawah, and he goes to anyone who invite him, he will go with them. Anyone that invites them, that invite that person, you'll go with them. Whether they're Sufi, Khurafi, Sunni, whatever. Why? Any invitation you will ask for, that you believe you have a message, so you understand that you have a delivery that is so good that you want to be with everyone. So the person has to have some criteria. Now, in Kuwait, one of my visit, I was a sheikh, one of my sheikh. So I was asked about the sheikh who came to his country and the experience. So I asked him about, in particular, they said about Sheikh Fawzan. He said, we invited Sheikh Fawzan to come to Kuwait. And he agreed. And everything was planned. The masjid, everything was in place. Then he said, something happened where that, as I said, someone pulled the strings. And the lecture was, the masjid was to be used, that were not allowed to use the masjid. But everything is what? Planned, organized. Because tickets were bought, everything was in place for the sheikh to come, but then that masjid was not now available because of whatever the reasons. So the people that contact the sheikh and ask, okay, no, we're still on plan, but there's some changes. The masjid that you were scheduled to do the lectures is not available. So what we have done to still compensate for that, we have built a big tent next door to the masjid, so you can still use. And the sheikh said what? No. The sheikh said, no, I'm not come. Because it's that I only teach in masajid. Of those things that I made, I said, I said, of the things that I've made upon myself, I'll only teach in masajid. But as for, you understand, as for this place and that place, and no, my thing is that as a rule that I've set for myself, I'll only teach in masajid. So, but said the thing, so that other thing that, for a talib, Just as the alim, you understand, they have rules for themselves that they follow. Also, you need to have rule for yourself, for the talib. If you have no rule for yourself, then you find yourself all over the place.
Some D1 are nicer than masajid.
Huh?
Some D1 that they make, them 10 things, they're just as nice as the masjid.
In those places, they can make things nice. You understand? They can make things proper. But instead, no, it's by way of the principle that you follow. You understand? You have to have certain, that the term say, so you have to have certain principle that you follow. You understand? And if you start to break your principle, then that's when you find yourself start to go down. And problems start to come. So I said for the talib, regarding concern it, no, that don't, as I said, sell yourself. Don't sell yourself. Have certain principles that you present, have in place that you follow to protect yourself from, I said, those things, riyasa, shahwa, wal madh. Be careful of those three things. Now, with that, inshallah ta'ala, we'll stop and continue tomorrow. Wabillahi ta'ala, tawfiq. And then, not my question.